shape. And so George is here. Unfortunately, I have to announce that Danielle Harris caught some kind of like flu and will not be able to be here today for the panel. So it will be George P. Wilbur, Michael Myers, and he's going to be joined by Nathan Baesel, who plays Leslie Vernon in Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which if you guys have seen that movie, is a complete homage to Michael, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and so we are going to, think on our feet, and we're turning the panel into like an old meets new horror icon type of a conversation. So I hope that is something that you guys will enjoy. So right now, I would like to welcome Mr. George P. Wilbur, Michael Myers, and Nathan Baesel, Leslie Vernon to our panel room. So welcome, guys. Day two. So we have here a guy who absolutely terrified me as a kid, I can proudly say.
He still does me.
And talk a little bit about that, because we're coming with Halloween 4. The franchise itself was aimed in a totally different direction in Halloween 3, and the fans weren't sure that Michael was ever going to come back. And so then we got the news that he was coming back in Halloween 4. So what was it like when you got that job and you knew that you were bringing back this icon to the screen?
Well, I had nothing to do with that as far as bringing anything back. But Mustafa Carter was executive producer. He saw the other Halloween movies with Jamie Lee Curtis, and the character Michael Myers was a short guy, or the other two were tall and slim. They didn't quite meet the qualifications that Mr. Mustafa was looking for. He wanted somebody at least 6 foot to play the new Michael Myers. That's right. I mean, that's even. It doesn't stump me. He wanted somebody stunt and abilities to do the part. And I qualified. Basically, I was the guy.
Right on. When you first saw it, what was your reaction? Because he terrified me just in the first where he didn't talk. He's just this entity. And Leslie Vernon, there's scenes in that film where you're very much shape-esque, like where they describe the shape where Michael Myers is a ghost. There's shots of you that you guys designed where you have your sickle and you are like that silhouette.
Yeah, we tried to mimic the money shot. Is what I like to call it. And but it's funny because I'm a pretty slight guy. I'm not the kind of stereotypical. What you think of, I guess, when you think of slasher. You think of a really physically imposing person. And for our movie, that's how he was described in the script. I mean. Just look. I'm not that, I'm something else, and so it was definitely going a different direction.
Yeah. Just
in the casting of it, by having a guy like me instead of somebody who, when they show up, you're already going.
Yeah.
But it was effective in a different way in that because there's nothing imposing about me, you kind of get familiar and comfortable with me,
right.
So that when I start doing the kind of the bad guy stuff, it's like a.
You're the actor.
Yeah.
You convinced everybody by your acting. I just did the walking. Right, that was it.
Well, I mean,
convinced everybody by your good acting. I just throw the mask on.
But I felt a lot of responsibility to deliver on that force of nature. I mean, that's what those guys really represent is just relentless evil. It doesn't stop coming at you, and I felt even in my diminished state, I needed to deliver in that way, and so there was some scenes, where I had to do some dragging bodies and whatnot, and so I I felt a lot of responsibility to have that not look as difficult as it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. That's, with you, George, and Michael, in that Halloween 4, it's the first time that we see Michael really stalk Jamie, in the sense where, I mean, Tommy Doyle and the kids in the first one, like, they're there, but his main purpose, he's very driven to get to Jamie Lee. And here, you were very driven to get to Jamie, Danielle Harris. And so you really see this, like, no soul type of a thing. Like, I mean, he's going after kids now. Was that an interesting take for you on that part?
I didn't really take that much to that, though. It did kind of bother me at first. She was a little working 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She portrayed that kind of character after her. What was happening in the news today, kind of wrong for her.
Yeah.
It's bad. But, yeah, it was. I enjoyed playing that too. I mean, you know what I talk about the walk. I have a particular Wilbur walk. That's me. That's part of my DNA. And my staff has looked at me and said, do that more. Emphasize it more. It's kind of the Wilbur walk. Everybody imitates it later.
Yeah. When you guys, with Michael's knife, what was the choice process? Like, were you in on that at all, Nathan, for Leslie's, sickle as his weapon of choice?
Well, I remember we were laying all this stuff out on the bed in the farmhouse. That was the first time that I was putting the gear on, and we were still trying to size up what this guy's look was going to be.
Yeah.
The sight that was already predetermined, but the mask was still in kind of design shape, and it was interesting. The whole process was fascinating because I was able to look over the shoulder of the people making those creative decisions and be a fly on the wall for how those decisions got made.
I thought that with Leslie Vernon, one of the coolest aspects of it is that Michael Myers exists, Freddy Krueger exists, Jason is real. When you guys were in the room, like, doing that, that whole crew just must have been like lovers of what these guys created before you. I can only imagine, right?
Oh yeah, it was a total love affair, and there was a lot of responsibility at the same time that we all felt to getting it right. Yeah, there's a certain element of it that's having fun, but that just goes without saying with a film like that. But we all felt a lot of responsibility to deliver, because the films that we were saluting were so deeply loved and felt by so many people. So we had to get it right.
Was there a particular part of Halloween 4 that you had the most fun filming?
Working with Jamie Lee Curtis. She was 10 years old at the time. I hadn't bothered me because I got really scared of her 10 years old. I kind of dated her before the shots and introduced myself and worked a conversation with each other. How she'd be comfortable around. I mean, this is the only thing for me, Danielle. I'm a bad guy. You're the actress. I'll be careful. I'll be pushing you around too hard. I enjoyed working with her 10 years ago. She was very, very astute.
Yeah. And you come back for Halloween 6, and I don't know about you guys, and I'm sure you'll say, well, I was just in a mess and I was walking. But once we learned that the cult is what is controlling Michael in Halloween 6, the way that you presented yourself, like your body language, you almost seemed more robotic to me. Like you were under the control of someone. Was that any kind of a directorial, thing? Were they telling you to behave differently?
Well, yeah, they did. Church was Wayne. A couple of things he wanted to walk back, chin in pursuit.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me, sir, Michael Myers doesn't do that. He doesn't walk. He's like, he pursues the person in front of him. It's like, how did he do that? And, you want me to start walking faster? I said, I'm getting out of the realm of the Michael Myers character that I already developed in 4.
Yeah.
We got conflict. disagreements. So that time on, I was like, well, try to get rid of me.
Yeah.
Well, the body language that you set up, though, is something that we tried to follow religiously, because that is iconic in its own. You know, we had a little bit, it was a run-walk scene. It ended up getting cut from the movie, but we have that a bit where he's chasing after her and just, walking. As long as she's looking back, he's walking. Right. And then she turns over and he's booking after, and he catches up to her, and then she turns around again and he's walking. And, he's just, I didn't really know the physicality of the guy. I was still, learning him. And, and so I thought of, he's kind of a child, he's kind of embryonic, and so I was, kind of fluid with my movement and everything like that. And we started shooting the first scenes with the character with the mask on, and the director was like, "You don't need to do anything. Just be present, and be a presence, and be a physically, present being. All the rest of the stuff, just toss that out the window. You're a force of nature.
Yeah. It's interesting to see you because the mask for any real horror icon that wears one is so immensely important. Michael's mask, Jason's goalie mask, and Leslie's mask, in the sense where with you it was like we got both, because before that night you're nice to the film too. Like, you're stoked that they're interested.
Chatty and whatnot.
Yeah, and then you put that mask on and it's a complete 180. And it's interesting in the sense to where the mask becomes its own entity. Did you guys, both of you with Michael and then you with Leslie, did you get that vibe when you were on set and preparing to go or in front of the camera rather?
Not really.
No?
Not really. I was just concerned a little bit of overtime when Chuck comes in the man. I didn't get into the character of Michael Myers, just hit the spot, hit the mark, and do that. That's all I was interested in doing. Right.
How about with you, Nathan?
It was a silly, kind of trance-like state. It was so method actor. It was stupid. It was, I was like, oh, I'm feeling it,
Well, when you and I talked last year, a while ago, I called you. I was like, you're like the horror version of Jim Carrey. To me, like your body language and the way that you get excited at points, like you're so stoked that Robert Englund, like he's gonna be my guy. I've been waiting so long for this, and it's funny that what drew me to it is that in your world, again, I already said it, but in your world, these guys all existed. So it's like a horror dreams or a horror fans fantasy type of a thing.
When you get a Robert Englund stamp of approval, you're there.
Yeah.
And he was there. I mean, I remember the first day that he was on set. He shot some of his stuff, and then he stuck around, I guess, to see what kind of mess he got himself into. So he was watching my scenes, and he came up in between takes, and he's put his arm around me, and and I was like, okay, well, he approves. He said I reminded him of a young Anthony Perkins, and I was like, I'm done. All right. Walk away now, because it's not going to get any better than this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It won't be said again. Right?
Yeah. No, ever.
And with you, of course, Robert. His Robert Englund is your Donald Pleasance, Dr. Loomis. Did you get to have any exchanges with him on set?
Yeah, a couple times. We got together for about 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes before a shoot, and enjoyable conversation. We didn't talk about much other than movies and World War II stuff. And he's a very, very nice guy. He's very pleasant.
Yeah.
Very pleasant to be around. One of my icons coming raised as a kid. I always see Donald Pleasant movies. I'm sitting next to him talking to him.
It doesn't get any better type of thing.
I arrived.
With both of you guys, with you doing stunts, I'm curious, like, what got you, because you've done a ton of stunts. I mean, Michael Myers is the cherry on top of everything that is your body of work. What got you involved in being a stuntman?
I just started out in Tucson, Arizona, working on a dude ranch, Tucson, Arizona. And I got a lot of work on a movie called El Dorado, John Wayne, Bob Mitchell. I started my career out working with legends, John Wayne, Bob Mitchell, and Howard Hawks. I mean, I started from the top, and 15, 20 years ago, I finished with legends, working with legends. Yeah, I was inspired with the stunt guys that were on the El Dorado show. They come to Hollywood, do stuff like a big tall and all that. You know, eventually I'll do that. Make a long story short, I made a career, 50-some years doing stunts, and now I'm enjoying the labor of my troupe by signing autographs for the fans of Halloween.
Very cool.
My privilege, you know.
Awesome, man. We definitely have enjoyed your work. But with Nathan, I know that you now teach. Did you start with like a background in theater and then move into film? Like where did it begin for you?
Yeah, I was training for theater stuff, but then I grew up in Southern California, and getting back to LA was where it was at for me. So did that, and was fortunate enough to have this film pretty early on in my career. So that was great. But the teaching part of it, I just kind of happened across it, and it turned out to be something that I enjoyed and enjoy far more than I do acting, because it's not, you know, acting can be a pretty selfish act, you know. It can be a pretty self-revolving exercise, and with teaching, you know, it's about the other person. It's about kind of helping them release what there is for them to express, you know. So at the end of the day, it feels like it's much more rewarding than you know, cashing a paycheck for acting.
Do you guys, growing up at all, you know, the Halloween franchise, were you a horror movie fan as a kid?
I never throw on. It was good as a run. All kids apart. Not really. The first horror picture I did see, was The Mummy.
Oh,
That was took me as a kid. I mean, the original Mummy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was not knowing that I was my career was doing the horror. And
What about for you? Was the one that got you hooked into the genre?
Or the first slasher that I saw was Nightmare on Elm Street, and so that was automatically, that got me hooked. But The Exorcist was, I saw that before, and that was the first horror movie that I ever saw, and I can't imagine anything that could push my buttons more than that. You know, just the way I was raised, and I was raised in a really religious household, and a lot of the guilt and shame and fear and all that stuff that it's Southern Baptism is kind of like the American version of Catholicism. You know, it's got all those buttons. And Exorcist movie just got me from the very beginning. You know, the devil's real, and he's hiding out, and he's just waiting for a chance, you know, to jump on your back.
Yeah. With Michael, how much input did you have? I've heard you when you were talking about how he doesn't like run after anybody, and you have to walk.
that's about all. That's the only thing I dare to say about that character. I was in him. You want to change everything, kind of like Michael doesn't do that attitude. So I was Michael.
With you, the storyline that Halloween 6 presents had some kind of controversial backlash in the day, and then the result is now that when you buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, you can get like the producer's cut and then you had the theatrical cut. Was there any talk on set? Because when I watched the producer's cut, I was like, I could understand what someone could get upset about, but it's not, I mean, there's way worse things to get upset about nowadays. Was there any kind of like weird vibe on that set that was like, hey, what we're doing may cause an issue?
No, it's just a matter of the director wanted to see at that time, he wanted this particular scene, then do the other scene later, that kind of thing. It is, it's a choice we made later on in the cut room, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't even know which one was the producer's cut or the director's cut.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get into this, it's interesting.
I love how everything is just kind of casual for you, but what you're talking about, what you're describing is something that, it got codified. You know, what you were insisting on was something that ends up making the genre iconic. I mean, that's...
At that time on the set, yeah, I had to say something,
Yeah.
I think prior to that, pre-production, I had to get us about it. To be on the set, then I'll put my input up there.
Yeah.
And waited to that time for me to speak up.
And that you did is kind of the reason why these characters are what they are, you know, why they have the stature that they have, why they're as imposing as they are, and, you know, it's that insistence that we were fortunate enough to be able to feed on.
Yeah, had that input too, and see it on screen.
Yeah.
You have to talk through it.
Well, you, like, when you said, you know, I'm not this huge imposing guy like Michael Myers, so you bring your acting capability to the table. How challenging was that for you as an actor to where you have to create this persona where no matter how hard you strike me, like I'm not gonna fall. So you have the Michael Myers like mentality, like you know there's no way I'm losing, this is my night. And then when things start to kind of like fall apart, there's still that Leslie side of that you show throughout the whole evening. Did it make it more fun? Did it make it more challenging? How was that?
The hardest part for me was because I'm doing, you know, a good part of the movie. It's chatty, you know,
Yeah.
chit chatting. You know, the hardest part was getting my mind around the concept of being okay, being evil, doing evil things. You know, because for the most part, I'm the guy next door. Well, I know just from reading the script that, you know, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to start doing some pretty horrific things. And so just reconciling myself philosophically with what that was the trick. And when I had the realization that there was and we kind of reference it in the movie too, you know, evil needs to be. You know,
Yeah.
It's not anything to run away from. It's not anything to apologize for. It's not anything to shy away from or feel, you know, ashamed of or be embarrassed about or whatever. You know, evil needs to be. In order for good to exist, you got to have evil. And so I was performing just as relevant or vital a service as a doctor. I'm just working from the different end of the spectrum. Yeah, I mean, it's not something you're going to go to school for. You will go to school in a different way. You know, and I realized, well, I'm the man, and I don't need to apologize, and I don't need to make excuses. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
And when I got my brain around that, I was like, boom, it's done. I got it.
Awesome. And that's the thing again that makes it so exciting, because there's a lot of us as just fans of the genre, fans of 80s horror, Michael, Jason, Leatherface, you know, aside from trying to lure all these kids in and slaughter them, would be stoked, like in the sense that, you know, I go to, you know, haunted houses, and every time I see a Michael Myers in the hallway, I get excited because it's Michael Myers is chasing me through it. It's not just, you know, run-of-the-mill mask or everything. That iconic character is coming through you. So
yeah, and it's hero worship. You know, that's something that we were able to do, and we were able to reference, you know, Michael and Jason and Freddy, you know, by name and
Yeah, that was really
hold them up as our hero.
Yeah.
And our heroes in this, you know.
It's an interesting thing. Your first horror movie was Elm Street. My first horror movie was The Mummy, Boris Karloff era. You got to draw it in the era.
Spanning the generations. Yeah.
So with that, with Karloff and Bela Lugosi, that classic era,
I remember those as a kid.
that's cool to sit down with you, because you're like them to you is you to us.
You got the DNA of the monster, I think.
Yeah.
Grandfather kind of thing. You're a kin too.
Well, I'm raising my boys on those movies too. Super Sci-Fi Saturday Night on BTV. Anybody get that with Svengoolie? No? Svengoolie? Yeah. So I'm raising my kids on the Mummy and Frankenstein, Dracula, and that's how they're finding their way into horror.
And remember, kids, when we make believe actors, don't make movies. Go to sleep now.
It really is cool in the sense that with you being a teacher, I just did a project the other day, and it was the genre timeline horror for the school that I'm going to, and you have all these pinpoints and stuff, and one of the ones is obviously the first Halloween, and it set the baseline for the rules of Jamie Lee's, like the original, final girl that we all look to. And another big one in horror is found footage.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that and Leslie Vernon, did that present challenges on set, or was it just, we're gonna make it this way and this is how we're gonna do it?
There was kind of logic things that had to get figured out, but fortunately that's above my pay grade. Other people were concerned with that, so I was just, okay, well, they'll catch me if I'm doing something outside of the timeline or whatever. And yeah, I guess we did. Yeah, just stupid stuff. Like, oh, you can't shave today because you're supposed to be, hairy tomorrow, and you just shaved 3 days ago, or whatever it was, just stupid stuff like that. But
yeah,
I didn't have to worry.
Yeah, it's funny, in our little projects that we do on the side, it's like clothes always trips us up. No, you were wearing this shirt.
Yeah, continuity was kind of a thing, more of a thing than it would be otherwise. But yeah.
My idea of the TV series, Bill Smith with the patch in one eye, where was the other one? It worked good.
Gotta have that continuity.
Yeah.
Did you guys joke around on set? You take the Michael Myers mask off, and you playing any practical jokes or anything?
No, not really.
No?
I don't remember any practical about it.
There's that classic photo that you can find from the original, and he's got the mask up here. He's drinking like a Dr. Pepper or anything. No one caught you in any of those moments.
No, but a few times with Danielle, I had a few moments. A couple times, my hand comes up underneath the bed, cover, and she didn't know that I was supposed to do that. I said, oh, well, let's talk a little now. So I rehearsed for it. She didn't know I was going to do that.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a joke, but I didn't know the other one. I'm glad I did it. So now I can tell it's going to be done that way.
Yeah.
It's only make believe. I'm Georgie. Remember me? Talked before I had the mask on.
How about you guys on set? Because you guys,
Well, the found footage part, the documentary part, that was nonstop goofing around.
Yeah.
It was nonstop. But yeah, whenever he was in character, whenever he had the mask on, it was kind of like a sacrosanct type thing, and from the first time I put the mask on till we retired it, whenever I had the mask on, stop fucking around because it's time to get to work.
The last question I wanted to say before we open it up to questions with the crowd is, you guys had your Leslie Vernon panel yesterday. I didn't hear if you got asked or how much you were able to discuss currently, but Leslie Vernon too, what is the word? Can you share any news on that?
Well, the script's written, it's been written for years, and it's a great script, and I think people just got tired of waiting for the ball to, gain momentum, so they issued a comic book series based on the sequel script. So we've got that out, and the first issues just came out last week. But again, above my pay grade, the financial aspect of it is, that's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
And it's not anything that fortunately I have to deal with. But, the first time around we did it on a shoestring budget, but we're playing with the conventions of sequels the second time around. And one of the conventions is that, the explosions are bigger and there's more blood, there's more bodies, and there's just more and more and more, and that's more expensive. So you got to have at least, twice the budget you had the second time around. So that's twice the hustle.
Yeah.
And, oh, there he is.
Oh yeah, Michael's in the back there.
Oh, back in the back.
Yeah, so,
I just want to say hi to my favorite Uncle George who came to town.
Oh.
Didn't even tell me he was coming.
I tried to get in and out before you realized I was there.
I would expect a free autograph for
How you
that.
doing, Brad? Yeah, I'll look right at you.
I live 2 blocks away.
Oh.
I'll see you later.
Yeah. Make sure you have the money. Brad, I'll tell you, I'm looking right at it. I didn't recognize it. It's like a middle.
Because I got my glasses on.
Did I borrow them?
On that note, let's open it up. Does anyone have a question for George or Leslie? Yes.
This is for both of them, actually. Will you ever make appearance on Walking Dead?
Would you ever make an appearance on The Walking Dead?
No.
No.
No, I'm a sensitive guy, can't stand blood and gore anymore. I'm retired. No.
Greg Nicotero calls you, Nathan, we want you to be the next vegan. You're
doesn't pay?
Well, it's The Walking Dead, I would assume.
Okay, yeah, then, yeah. Now, my oldest loves that show, so I would definitely do it just to,
Be able to say,
yeah.
Dad was on The Walking Dead.
Yeah. I'd even do selfies with everybody on set.
Go ahead, yes. Charlie, go ahead.
George, I know you're in the Stuntman Hall of Fame. Congratulations on that, by the way. I think that's terrific.
I have my age to thank for that now. The only award towards the end of life, right?
What is the hardest, most difficult stunt in any kind of movie that you've ever had to do?
Saying yes to anyone, any stunt. I'm scared of doing stunts. No. I've done a lot of different things, high fall car work and all. My a little bit of fear. I hated doing high falls. I get to the point I have to force myself. Well, I'm in the situation. I said yes to it. I got to do it. Sleepless nights prior to doing it. That was the only thing.
Sure. Thank you. There was one.
Nathan, in your panel yesterday, you said you were going to show your kids the movie for the first time. Did that happen? How did they react?
I was so tired. I was pooped. And we put on an animated movie instead and only got 20 minutes into it before I was dropping off. So, yeah, we'll get it done before Halloween. I told my oldest, he's 14, and it's ready. He's ready. So we'll watch it before this Halloween, and then the younger 10, he's got a couple years to go.
What is it for you when you were growing up? Because Tim Curry, Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, Leslie Vernon, all these guys, talk, they emote, they interact with the people that they're chasing. And Michael Myers and Jason don't. So that's one of the things that scared me the most about, Michael, is he has no emotion. He is, they named him the Shape in the credits after the first one. he's a ghostly figure, and there's no why or rhyme or reason to him. He is just this menacing force. Where you guys at the same time are scary, but you get, I guess, into the psychology more of that character. What freaked you out, and what scares you more? Like a Michael, where there is no rhyme or reason, and it's just this force, or someone who's talking to you, interacting with you, playing mind games with you?
I never got into the character of Michael Myers. I just reading positive direct and just do the walk, breathe heavy through the mask.
Yeah.
I never really.
So that's you breathing. That is George Wilbur's breath on the sound.
Look that he has. I mean, nothing more than that.
Okay. What about as you've grown up?
Yeah, well, my exposure to slasher was with Freddy, and he's definitely interactive, which is funny because, I mean, Robert Englund's the same way. I mean, you have a conversation with, it's a monologue. When you have a conversation with him, he's talking at you, and he's just a constant flow of verbiage, and he's fascinating. I could listen to him talk all day long, and I have. But it's really funny that he's that slasher that talks, because he's the person. That's who he is as a person.
Yeah.
That's and with each iteration of that film, that's what became more and more, present in his character, was the level of expression, with his character. So it's a really interesting parallel that happened there, and maybe not a coincidence. But yeah, those are the characters that I always responded to, was the ones who were just these beings that were physical human embodiments of evil, and I thought that was a neat thing to try to highlight, was the he's chatty without the mask on, and then with the mask on he's completely different.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question for these two?
Yeah.
My question is for George. Hi, George. It's great to meet you yesterday. Thanks for signing my Myers mask. So, in Halloween 4, there's a part towards the end of the movie, I believe it's in the school. Michael Myers pops up next to Donald Pleasance. For a brief moment, it appears as if he's wearing a mask with blonde hair. Do you know what the deal with that was?
I think that was the director messed up with the lighting or whatever, and he didn't notice that when he was filming it. But it was a light situation. They didn't catch her. I was setting the scene up. That's how I was asked that quite a while ago too, and that's all I come up with. It was a mistake. They didn't catch it in time, so they left it.
So it's all lighting, brown hair.
All lighting thing, yes.
It's a pretty infamous kind of weird thing.
Yeah, a lot of fans catch that very thing, the different color in the hair.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
George, I'm nearly dead, but you still scare the bejesus out of me, okay? And when I go home and I go watch Michael Myers again, it's still going to be scary. But you two, both, you seem such sensitive, gentle souls. Do you have to work up to being evil, or no? The minute you put that mask on, you become that character?
Scripture says the heart's always evil. It's always there anyway. We all have it being evil. But no, it's be yourself. I'm always myself doing these things.
Well, if you were yourself, you wouldn't scare people. People would love you.
I don't have to work up to anything,
Oh,
What I
okay.
am and just relaxing what I'm doing. I don't have to motivate myself to be evil in these scenes. Keep the bars and don't move the furniture out of here.
Are young kids more scared of you now than we were when we were younger?
I don't think so. No.
You don't
The
think
impression
so?
I get is they look at me more as a cartoon character now, the kids today.
Oh, okay.
They don't have that kind of fear that you did when you came, when you saw Michael Myers at first. Different kind of fear, different, not fear at all.
Everything's amped up now.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, the kill scenes with Michael, I mean, the scene where Donald Pleasance, Dr. Loomis is going back to Haddonfield
Yeah.
in 4, and there's the truck driver on the side of the road, and or in the first one rather, and minimal blood compared to what there is now.
Yeah.
And
besides the gore, it's a little more so in modern film.
yeah, and it's like,
Take that away from the action. Horror, fear, the way they act, they say. But they rely too much on the visual aspect of it.
Yeah.
Too much blood, too much gore, too many stunts and everything.
yeah, it's not one thing with your kills, they're not insanely gory compared to what is now. Yeah. Back in the day, I'm sure, you know, when they came out, that was like, oh man, that's really taking it to another level.
Should we censor it then?
Yeah.
Now they don't censor on violence. It's all visual violence. I don't really appreciate that.
Yeah, and it was interesting too, because Behind the Mask came out just before Saw and Hostel, and that really started a whole new wave of sensationalist horror.
Yeah.
That I don't personally respond to, but I get how people. I mean, it's a visceral. It's taking the kind of visceral experience of a horror film and just dialing it up to 11.
Right.
And it's too intense for me. I can't do it. But I think people have become accustomed to that kind of intense experience.
Yeah.
In a horror film.
Yeah, I come into business as a cowboy in Tucson, Arizona, and I ride horses and fall off of them. The best Western wild hunt, Sam Peckinpah, that was the beginning, the gory blood sequences. You can punch him right up the camera when he gets shot. So comes in one end, goes over the blood splattered. That to me was the beginning of all the gore in feature films, especially in Westerns.
When you guys were doing that, and that you could sense that time was changing, was the mood a little bit different on set? I would imagine it would have to start to be when you start setting up more and more like gory type stuff.
Yeah, very much so. Everybody's going to be attentive to, especially safety-wise.
Yeah.
Officers ought to be there. Just make sure when we expose and close, because everything's done safely. Yeah, a whole different attitude change when the Peckinpah thing come out with all the blood and gore, close-ups, blood hit, going up one end and the other. We advanced to what we have now. That's good.
Well, I think, you know, Peckinpah was responding to World War II and the horror of war, and plugging that into westerns. It makes sense.
Yeah. You talked, Charlie asked you what your scariest, and you were saying about high falls used to really get to you.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite stunt that you like to do? Where you were like, yes, I get to do this today?
Go with the mailbox, open that check. I fooled them again. There's the check. They didn't see the fear when I did it, but there's the check.
We got time for a couple more questions if anybody has one. I got one more for you, Nathan. Your mask, and you have the live theater experience and stuff. The way that his mouth and his eyes droop reminds me of Tragedy, and the whole comedy of Tragedy mask. Just coincidence, or was there any inspiration for that?
You know, I know that they were starting out, like I said, a kind of embryonic idea of just removing any kind of features, human features, but the very basic essentials. And I think they really only tweaked it slightly from there to give it a little more menace. But I think that was the idea. Was you know, this is a not fully formed human being, somebody who's kind of arrested in development.
Right.
And
Well, if there's no more questions, everybody, these guys will be here all day. Please, if you want to see Sinister Creature Con, bring back great guests like George and Nathan, go visit their tables, spend some money for them, take some pictures, get some autographs. I know Nathan has that Leslie Vernon comic book at his table. It looks very cool. Maybe you'll be able to give some people a peek at it and check it out. But everybody, give it up. George P. Wilbur.
This guy.
Yeah.